Hi, sir, to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television. 6 p.m. in Douala is time for the news. Thank you so much for joining us. Our major stories right away. Murder series continue in major towns of Cameroon after a young man killed his mother. Over a dispute in Marua, another young man murdered and decapitated his mom in Yaoundé. Now, security forces in Douala have arrested some individuals, 2 young men, who have been interrogated on their connection with the killing of an upper-C student in Bonamusadi, still here in Douala. Now, why are criminal acts on the rise in Cameroon? Are criminals harassed in the country? Should the penal code be reconsidered and implemented in Cameroon, especially the death penalty? We will be telling you more on that in this edition of the news. Plus, some other hoodlums specialized in burglary and harassment of local inhabitants are under police dragnet here in Douala. Viewers, those are our major stories. Details when we come back. Welcome viewers, thank you so much for the confidence. We told you a while ago in the headlines, 3 persons are currently being interrogated at the Dogbon Gendarmerie Brigade in Douala in connection with the death of a 20-year-old upper-C student whose name we got as Chouameni Stefan, that was on Friday after collapsing in a guest house while with his friends. Immaculate Fogwe tells us more.
Return is the fate of 20-year-old Chouameni Stefan Derrick, an upper-C student living in Gwele Bonaberi, Douala 4 Subdivision. His aggrieved mother is yet to come to terms with the news of her son's demise. On Good Friday, my son told me he was going to school. So I asked him, isn't it a public holiday? And he said it's because he is in an examination class. So I said, you can go. At about 5 p.m., someone called me to inform me that my son is dead. Devastated and confused, she decides to rush to the site where her son's corpse was lying. Questioning what happened, she is told, when I saw my son's lifeless body, I began crying while struggling to see if he could wake up. He had no injuries on him. So I asked what happened, and a girl told me they were together in an apartment around Petit Bonasama carrying out TikTok videos while waiting for their guest. When their guest didn't arrive on time, they decided to leave the apartment. So when he went to collect our bags from the room, he collapsed and died on the spot. An autopsy is expected to be carried out to establish the exact cause of Stefan's death. Meantime, the 2 friends who were with Stefan at the time the tragic incident occurred have been arrested. The owner of the said apartment is equally being questioned at the Dogbon Gendarmerie Research Brigade. As of now, the corpse of Stefan has been laid at the Bonasama Hospital's mortuary. Stefan leaves behind a resentful family, friends and neighbors.
Now in the second part of the news, we will be talking more on the rise of crime waves in Cameroon. 3 suspected armed robbers who had as modus operandi breaking into shops are in the darkness of security forces in the Douala 2 Research Brigade. They were apprehended following numerous complaints from the local population, as Lucidiengu Esie tells us in the report which comes up next.
It is the end of the road for these 3 suspected armed robbers who, according to security forces of the Douala 2 Research Brigade, have been terrorizing the inhabitants of Douala. One of the victims laid a complaint to the security forces, complaining she was attacked at her mobile money kiosk. The sum of 2,500,000 francs CFA and her phones were seized.
Et apparemment, ils étaient là pour m'attendre. Donc, dès que j'ai ouvert, ils sont montés, ils ont pris le sac, j'ai essayé de résister. Ils m'ont poignardé de partout sur le corps, comme vous voyez là.
Not satisfied enough, the men of the underworld went ahead to rob the store of a young man located at Kam Yabasi, stealing the sum of 1,100,000 francs. Trying to resist, the victim was brutally beaten. Series of investigations launched with the aid of a surveillance camera installed around the victim's shop facilitated the tracking of the suspects.
On avait installé une caméra surveillance près de moi. Donc on a apporté la vidéo chez le commandant et on a laissé, c'est à travers ça qu'on a pu les interpeller.
À cette occasion, nous avons procédé à des perquisitions dans des domiciles ainsi que dans le ghetto.
Commander of the Research Brigade Douala 2 says they also orchestrated operations in some neighborhoods where weapons and daggers were discovered.
Où nous avons découvert une arme factice, 2 poignards et une machette. Il s'agit là du matériel utilisé par ces malfrats pour perpétrer leur forfait.
The 3 suspects will be presented to competent judicial authorities at the military court in Bonanjo in the days ahead, while investigations continue to lay hands on 3 others who are on the run.
Now let's talk economics. Intra-African trade remains low compared to the rates of commercial exchange between African nations and the West, a case in point that depicts the low volume of trade between African nations. In trade is Cameroon and Nigeria. Despite the fact that Nigeria is an economic powerhouse on the African continent and its closeness, it remains the second trading partner of Cameroon behind China. Young people under the umbrella of the Organization of Youth in International Trade and Commerce are striving to change this trend. Babila Jonathan has more.
The volume of trade between Cameroon and neighboring African economic giant Nigeria remains low compared to a far-off nation like China.
And we expect that Nigeria, being the next door neighbor to Cameroon, will enjoy healthy commercial activities between the 2 countries. But we are not seeing that, given the various challenges that are affecting trading between Nigeria and Cameroon.
Despite the geographical closeness between Cameroon and Nigeria, several obstacles contribute to slow down trade between the 2 countries.
You know, issues with logistics, bringing in goods into both countries, both ways we look at it. Challenges including tariff, taxes.
To enhance trade between the 2 countries, and more particularly in locally produced goods, the Organization of Youth in International Trade and Commerce is bringing stakeholders from both nations together May 8 to 10 in Douala to break barriers in international non-oil export trade.
The first objective is for them to see the healthy opportunities that exist between Cameroon and Nigeria. That's 1. 2, for the government and the stakeholders to look at barriers like taxes, tariffs, and how to ensure that they don't become challenged. You know, people want to bring in their products, but at times they get to the borders and those products are seized. Why? Because they've not gone through the right channels. So they want to learn more about the channels to pay their taxes, to pay their tariffs, so that their goods can get in. You know, so the 3 is the networking opportunities that people are going to get from this gathering.
The stakeholders will be expected to fine-tune strategies to deal with the obstacles to trade between Cameroon and Nigeria.
In politics, the national treasurer of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, Professor Alain Foguet, has called on the election governing body in Cameroon-Nigeria to extend voters' registration exercises to prisoners in Cameroon and create polling stations in prison facilities in the country. In a letter to Electoral, the politician argued that most prisoners in Cameroon are pre-trial detainees who have all their rights and eligibility to vote. For me, Armstrong Sander completes the story for us.
A letter addressed to the Director General of the election governing body in Cameroon, Electoral, the national treasurer of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, recalls that they are prisoners in Cameroon who still benefit from the presumption of innocence and will participate in the many elections coming up in Cameroon. Professor Alain Foguet, who is being detained in Yaoundé, requests for the organization of special campaigns for registration on the electoral list within the prisons of Cameroon from January 2nd to August 31st, 2025, and the opening of special polling stations for this category of voters. According to Alain Fege, the prison population in Cameroon is made up of defendants and convicts, not subjects to incapacity provided for by the law. These citizens, although incarcerated, some still enjoy their right to be voters and eligible. Indeed, indicates Alain Fege, 80% of inmates in Cameroonian prisons are pre-trial detainees. Unfortunately, they are not taken into account during the voters' registration campaigns organized by Electoral. The treasurer of the CRM party thus called on Eric Esuse to organize special campaigns for registration on the electoral list across the country's prisons before the end of the current campaign, but also to integrate the prisons into the programming of the next campaign, which begins in January 2025. Furthermore, he says it will be desirable that in the operational planning for the conduct of the municipal, legislative and presidential elections of 2025, Electoral integrates the opening of special polling stations within the country's penitentiaries, a proposal which, according to observers, makes perfect sense because the electoral law in Cameroon provides in Article 49 the people who must not be registered on the electoral list.
Meanwhile, youths in the Mayokani division of the Far North region have been urged to register massively on the electoral list for a change in the country after the 2025 elections. The Muslim faithful prayed for the nation as they celebrated the feast of the Ramadan. That was yesterday. It was the same prayer in Kutaba in the West region and Ideya in the Senegal Maritime division. As Mala Glory tells us in the report, this comes up next.
Considering the water crisis faced by the population of Motowa, especially Muslim faithfuls, during their just ended month of fasting, the youths were encouraged by the Lamido of Motowa to get registered on the electoral list. He says this would give them the voice and power to vote for the changes they want come 2025. I urge the youth to register massively on the electoral list and that the elections be done in a peaceful atmosphere. This was during the celebration of the Feast of Ramadan as the faithfuls converge at the praying ground to break their 1 month fasting. In the West region, precisely in Kutaba, Muslim faithfuls on this special day focus their prayers on the nation Cameroon, praying for the government.
Ils ont beaucoup fait des lectures coraniques.
They read the Quran and prayed for several days, invoking the Almighty God to touch the hearts of those governing this country to consider the interests of the citizens. The celebration started with prayers at the municipal stadium of Kutaba and continued in their homes. It was the same scenario in the town of Ideya, Senegal Maritime Division. The faithfuls answered present at the mosque for the celebration of the feast of the Ramadan in spite of the rain. I wish everyone a happy feast and let Allah answer all our prayers. They celebrated with non-Muslim faithfuls who expressed satisfaction. I was received by my friend Karim. We ate together and shared a lot. Following the 2025 elections in Cameroon, Muslim faithfuls insisted on praying for the nation and for possible change through massive voting by the youths.
And now on to this obituary. Government ministers, public personalities, friends and family members today gathered at the mortuary of the military hospital in Cameroon-Nigeria in Douala for the corpse removal of the father of the president of Fika Foods, Samuel Eto'o, the father who died, who is David Eto'o. It took place here in Douala at the mortuary of the military hospital, and our reporter Sedu Chakutio was there. He tells us more.
At the military hospital mortuary in Bonanjo, Douala, for the corpse removal of David Eto'o, Samuel Eto'o's father, several personalities like the Minister of Work and Social Security, Gregoire Owona, Minister of Transport, Ernest Masenangale Bibehe, former football player Roger Miller, and Oswald Baboke, representing the head of state, were present alongside the governor of the littoral region at the mortuary with condolence messages to the bereaved family. For some personalities, it is a hard situation that the family has to cross, and the presence and support of private friends and other members will be crucial for them.
Papa est parti certes, mais nous les enfants, ceux qu'elle a accouchés et ceux qu'elle a adoptés, nous serons toujours auprès d'elle. Nous allons lui apporter et lui accorder tout le sourire nécessaire pour qu'elle ne se sente pas seule. Nous serons là, maman. Nous sommes là, tous tes enfants sont avec toi dans cette douloureuse épreuve.
C'est un peu difficile, hein? C'est un peu difficile. Vous avez l'émotion et nous ne pouvons que, n'est-ce pas, présenter nos condoléances à la famille. C'est un coup dur pour la famille et tout. C'est pour ça que nous sommes là. C'est vraiment avec la gorge nouée et le cœur très serré que nous sommes là.
A sad moment for family members and friends who will only keep good moments they lived with him.
And now, before we move to the second part of the news, let's now have our foreign place roundup with Babila Jonathan.
Public hospital in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, lays off 100 doctors participating in a nationwide strike ongoing for nearly a month. According to the Kenyatta University Referral Hospital, replacement doctors have been hired in response to the striking workforce. The strike, initiated by doctors across Kenya mid-March, calls for improved pay and working conditions. President William Ruto addressed the striking doctors, citing financial constraints as the reason for the government's inability to meet their demands. Despite the president's remarks, the strike action continues. The government of Togo has said a planned three-day protest this week over the arrest of opposition figures and new legislation scrapping the presidential election was illegal. The move has heightened tensions in the West African nation ruled by the same family for almost 60 years. The government also delayed parliamentary elections until April 29, pushing the vote back by over a week. The government last week arrested 9 opposition activists for engaging in political activities at the market. All 9 were released Tuesday evening. A statement from the public prosecutor's office said they were arrested for disturbing public order. In Mali, authorities have banned political party activities. The political parties have been calling on the ruling army leaders to organize elections. Speaking on state television Wednesday, government spokesperson Abdoulaye Maiga said the ban on political activities was made in the interest of maintaining public order. There was no indication on when the suspension will be lifted. Mali has been under army rule since August 2020. Last September, the leaders indicated that they will go back on a promise to organize elections to bring back civilian rule, citing technical reasons.
And now we talk sports. The 2024 Limbe Ngeme National Fairness School League A games have ended at the seaside resort town of Limbe, somehow hit-free. The Minister for Secondary Education, Nalova Lyonga, and other ministers lauded the athletes for demonstrating a strong sense of sportsmanship. Davidson Maimo tells us more from Limbe.
With love for one another and in the spirit of living together in diversity, the secondary school students from all 10 regions of Cameroon demonstrated outstanding sportsmanship in the just-ended highly competitive secondary school Olympic Games. The 24th edition saw the Central region grab the first position with the highest number of medals and trophies, while the host, the Southwest region, occupied the 4th place. The Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyonga, while congratulating the teams, says the competition, which is an integral part of the secondary school curriculum, remains an important platform where sports talents are discovered and polished. Apart from the school medals and trophies, some individuals and partners who contributed to the success of the games were equally recognized with the Chantabia Award of Excellence.
Such an award shows that we can also organize in that style.
Taking place in the seaside resort city of Limbe for the very first time, the Limbe Ngeme 2024 National Finance School League A Games have been described as one of the best in recent times, given that the mobilization and participation of the peace-loving people were magnificent. The 2025 Finance School League A Games Rendezvous has been fixed for the East region.
And that does it for the first part of the news. Talking Points comes up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Barrister Ewule Lionga Edward. He is a legal mind. Barrister, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Now, recently, we have had an increase in crime waves in our major cities. The most recent of them is the young man who murdered his mom, packed the corpse of the mom in a box and dropped beside a stream in Yaoundé. The other day, another young guy killed his mom in Marwa after a dispute. Now, what, according to you, might be some of the reasons behind some gruesome acts by young people in Cameroon?
And it's always a pleasure for me to be on Talking Points on Equinoxe this evening. I'm happy to be here since I lost my mom. I think this is the first time coming on air, so it's a great pleasure. But the question you are putting is a very important one, talking about increase in crime waves in our cities and towns. I think it's a very serious issue because it has, in 2024, crime waves have gotten to another level. And it is good that Equinoxe is taking interest in addressing crime waves in our country. And you are asking, what are the causes for the increase in crime waves? And we'll be looking at it in a very comprehensive manner. And the first of the reasons for crime waves is poverty and unemployment. Poverty is a major factor that has pushed people into getting into crimes. In 2024, there was an increase in the prices of all basic commodities. There is high rate of unemployment in our country, and these have been the cause of the increase in crime waves in our country. You have lack of enforcement, lack of law enforcement resources. The law enforcement officers are not enough. You can see that in Boyaye, because of the crisis, there is increase in the number of military personnel. But look at other areas. Look at other areas in Kribi, in Douala itself, where this boy mother, that had to murder his own mother. So you see that we lack adequate funding. So we are praying that to really address this issue, there is lack of funding for law enforcement officers. Then the other issues that we can say is the cause of crime, increase in crime waves in our country. You have drug trafficking. It's a major issue, and drug trafficking is one of the major issues. Our youth have involved themselves in drugs, and we think that it is important for the judiciary to put a strong hand as far as the drug issue is concerned. You go to most cities, Munya for instance, all of those areas, you go there, you see groups of guys who are smoking. It is those guys that after they smoke, they don't have money to buy more drugs. They go about causing havoc in the society. Even investigations are still going on, but if you go detail, you see that maybe this guy who caused this action was under the influence of drugs. So we think that is something that our government must fight it seriously if we want to handle issues of drugs in our country. You have also, because of the crisis in the English-speaking regions, Northwest and Southwest, we have had a lot of arms that have got.
Now, Barrister, talking about voluntary murder, like what I just cited in the other question, what is the punishment proportionate to taking away another person's life voluntarily, that is according to the penal code or the law?
In looking at the penal code, we look at section 275. 275 is talking about murder. Whoever commits murder, simpliciter, the Cameroon penal code, the punishment is life imprisonment. But if you look at section 276 of the Cameroon penal code, it says that it talks of capital murder. Whoever commits murder by premeditation. Now, if you commit murder, for instance, by you drive your car and you hit somebody in the road, that is that is the murder that is life imprisonment. But if you commit murder like what this boy has committed, that is premeditation, the punishment is death. That is the law. The punishment is death. Now, if Cameroon, it does not end with the penal code. You have other international law that Cameroon has signed and ratified under Section 45 of our Constitution. You have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It talks about issues of protection of life. You have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All of these Cameroon have signed and ratified, so it is part of our law. You have the African Charter of Human and People's Rights. All of these talk about the right to life. And even the preamble of our Constitution, the 1996 Constitution as amended, it talks, you look at the preamble, talk about the right to life. So taking somebody's life in Cameroon is a very serious offense, a felonious offense under Section 20. Under Section 21, the classification of offenses of the penal code is a very serious offense, a felonious offense, and which the state has a strong interest in. Most of the time, if you don't have a lawyer, the state will look for you a lawyer to make sure that you have a fair trial. And that is why you see all the international laws are saying that, because the punishment for murder is either life imprisonment or death under our law. So the state makes sure that the people who are tried are being tried fairly by giving them a fair trial.
Barrister, other opinions have it that most murderers, especially in Cameroon, after committing such crimes, are not usually severely punished so as to serve as a lesson to others. They sometimes go to prison and are out few days later. Don't you think criminals are somehow caressed in Cameroon, reason such criminal offenses are being recorded almost on a daily or monthly basis in our country?
I don't think criminals are caressed in Cameroon. We have a very good penal code, even though there are some amendments that have to be done, but we have a very good law. You look at the laws, you look at Section 275, 276. The issue that we have to address is the fact that if you commit a crime, you should be given a fair trial. Most of the time, sometimes they are out on bail. Bail is people's fundamental right. Even though there are certain crimes that you are not supposed to be granted bail, like murder and the rape, but there are other crimes, defamation, theft, all of these things, they are bailable offenses. So most of the time when you see these people out, it is not that our laws are caressing with criminals, but they should know that the law has given certain rights to suspects, to criminals, and some of those rights is right to bail. So the society, everyone should understand that if you see somebody who has committed a crime and is granted bail, it is his right to bail. Secondly, we understand the fact that our judiciary has a problem. We have a serious problem that Cameroonians, our authorities must address, must appreciate, and that is the problem of corruption. There are many people who have committed crimes and they are out there, and there are innocent people who are in the prison, and these are issues that have to be addressed by the government, and making sure that we have issues of separation of power in such a way that the judiciary have a full power to handle cases. We have cases in Cameroon where when the judges are handling the cases, you have orders that are coming from the chancery. You have powers, you have people who are controlling the investigations, who are controlling the cases in court, and these are the issues that can make people not to have trust in the judiciary. But I think that with the recent outing of the Minister of Justice, I think that things are going to go to the right direction.
Thank you, Barrister, for those clarifications there, and hope to have you again another time. Viewers, thank you so much for being with us on Equinoxe Television. Don't go away, our programs continue. The news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Equinoxe Soir. at 7 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.